Hello everyone, and welcome to a One Controller Port Patreon video. Again, thank you so much for subscribing and supporting. I really appreciate it. Can't really make a lot of money with how how small the YouTube is right now, so any little bit definitely helps, especially as I'm kind of in between employment stuff right now, still kind of trying to work things out. I really should get on that, but that's a conversation for another day. I've been very slow at kind of getting my feet rolling again, but it's also been nice to just kind of relax and focus on other things. But despite my lack of more recent income, I did go ahead and make a purchase that maybe I shouldn't, but here we are. We're here today to talk about, not these things. These are things I've already had for a long time. To talk about the Game Boy Advance AC adapter set. I was not aware that this was a thing that existed. It actually showed up on I was watching a Scott the Woz video where he goes through like old pamphlets and stuff from like the GameCube era and things like that, and I actually really love that kind of stuff, honestly. And it's kind of like the Wii Japanese commercial video. I don't know if that was an inspiration for it. I wasn't thinking about Scott the Woz in that regard, but I wouldn't be surprised if that like was part of what led me to that. But anyway, so he was going through one of those pamphlets, and this showed up, and what it is essentially it's not a battery for the Game Boy Advance. It is a literal just like AC connection to the wall, so you can't like charge a GBA up with this pack and then go and play portably. You will be anchored to the wall with this. Obviously the Game Boy Advance SP here has its own rechargeable battery inside, but these things are incompatible with each other. So the GBA SP, you just use your charger that you have for it. So I picked it up for a couple of reasons, or really one specific reason. If you've been following the website for a long time, I kind of lament the control options that are available for the Game Boy player, which is how I record Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color games. And actually, let me go get a GameCube controller real quick. Alright, so I got my GameCube controller here. So, I mean, the GameCube controller is fine for controlling Game Boy Advance games. We largely have the two buttons we have here, but, really, it's not ideal. You have this kind of like, little tiny D-pad that's it doesn't feel comfortable to use. And then I could be wrong, but I believe the L and R are assigned to the triggers here. So you are using like these big, long press L and R triggers. Again, those things work great for GameCube games and such, but for Game Boy Advance games where you're expected to have that immediate press, it's not ideal. So there was actually like I'm gonna throw my controller here. Whip! There was actually a Hori controller that came out for the GameCube that is shaped like a Super Nintendo controller. It actually has the GameCube button layout on it. I shouldn't have thrown the controller, but you know what a GameCube button layout looks like. It has the GameCube button layout on it, but it has like a full-size D-pad similar to like a Super Nintendo controller. But those are very pricey, or at least they used to be. I haven't looked into getting one in a long time because they got kind of outside of my price range. So there's a couple different options I looked into. One is, just so you know, you can't actually use the Game Boy Advance. Actually, let me hold off on that first. So let's talk about what I've done first. So the first thing I did was I have a Super Nintendo controller here. This is actually a Super Famicom controller, but I had Super Nintendo ones. Unfortunately, my Super Nintendo controllers are pretty roughed up. And I got this little connector from what was it called? It's like does it say on here? I forget the company name. It's a small company, but they make these like controller adapters and things like that. And so they have a GameCube controller adapter to a Super Nintendo controller. So essentially you just take the Super Nintendo controller and you just plug that thing in there, and you can, plug your Super Nintendo controller into a GameCube, and then you can use the Super Nintendo controller, to play Game Boy Advance games. And I think this actually works really well. You are using the D-pad here, you have the L and R's, and you have the A and B button, for the most part. So, it does work pretty well. I will say, I'm not like the hugest Super Nintendo controller fan, to be honest with you. I think it's fine, and I think it's pretty good overall. And like, this is how I was playing Game Boy Advance games for a long time. So like, it works and it makes sense. But I wouldn't say it's like a comfortable controller to me. So the controller I always wanted to use for this was actually the Nintendo 64 controller. And the Nintendo 64 controller is really nice. It actually feels very similar to holding like an original GBA here. And it has, kind of just the two big buttons on its own. The L and R buttons feel pretty good. And I feel like it depends on the era of 64 controller you get. I feel like the later in the console generation, the worse it is. But the D-pad on the 64 controllers are actually surprisingly all right. So I actually kind of prefer to use this, and that was actually what I was originally looking into. Unfortunately, the 64 to GameCube adapter they had was not compatible with the Game Boy Player software, or the Game Boy Player, yeah. And so I passed it up and got that Super Nintendo one. However, they did release a version 2 of this that essentially, is the 64 to GameCube adapter, as we see here, right? And it did support Game Boy Player, at least it claimed that on the website. However, I ran into problems where basically, for some reason, any GBA game I played would, instead of holding the button down, it would just repeatedly press the input. If I hold the A button down, the A button would just be pressed rapidly. It was almost like a turbo function. And I actually worked with the people who produced it, and we had some conversations, and we just never could quite figure out what my problem was. I'm gonna guess it was maybe a software issue. Maybe they tested it with the official Game Boy Player software, and I was using the I forget what it's called, but the third-party software that reduces a lot of problems that the official Game Boy software has. But when I used the adapter on things like Ocarina of Time or something like that, it worked perfectly fine and perfectly great. So I think it probably could work, but I just never took the time to troubleshoot it, unfortunately, and maybe someday I will, but for now, it's not. But then, so that's where this comes in. So, I really love the feel of the GBA, or the original GBA. It's great. The thing I hate about it is it has no backlit screen. There's mods you can do and things like that. But, I'm playing games to capture them most of the time, so I need to connect it to a TV. So you can actually connect a GBA SP up to the GameCube player, and or GBA up to the GameCube player, and you can use it as a controller. However, it does still require its own power source. So you need to put batteries in there. And I did try this, but it was always kind of a pain to sit there and have to worry about the batteries. I say this like it's something that I don't deal with Wii remotes already. It's something stupid. I'm making justifications here. But I did always just kind of find I wish I didn't have to sit here and go through batteries for this. So this is where this thing finally comes in. It's a very long way around about it. But essentially with this thing, I can just plug this thing into a wall and not have to worry about it, which is wonderful. So I think, maybe going forward, this will be my preferred method. Now, so the eBay listing for this thing said it was sealed and new. It's packaged very nicely, I will say, but this thing is pretty messed up. So let me go ahead and switch us over to our little camera setup here. So, you can see this package has seen better days. It's torn, things like that. And I did not buy this for a sealed price. So I just bought it for I think it was maybe $5 more expensive than a loose one. And the other loose ones I saw just looked a little roughed up. So I was this, it's hard to tell because it's in this package, but this looks like it's in pretty good condition. And if we are to believe that this is actually a sealed thing, ideally the actual components inside are new, and we won't have to worry about, the clip being broken, which is actually something that the Game Boy Advance has a big problem with, and you'll see on my Game Boy Advance, the clip is indeed broken. So I don't know if anyone would be upset about me opening this, but the reality is this just does not look particularly happy. So I think I'm pretty okay just opening this up. I think if I'm gonna open anything, this is a good one to open. Look, I'm damaging the value as we speak. So it looks like this is probably sealed though, maybe, because yeah, I don't really know how these things are fitted together, and they're not really meant to be opened without using scissors, I don't think, like a blister pack kind of thing. So I'm debating. I think I will probably just take some scissors to this thing and make that work. I'm seeing if we can wiggle it out. Otherwise, I would like to keep the back cardboard generally in good condition. Yeah, it seems like it is splitting on the sides here. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna take scissors to this thing. I think that's for the best. And we'll see how that goes. So, we can get some crinkly noise. Gonna try my best not to cut the cardboard. I really hate these kind of packages. I feel like I heard something about why these things were made this way back in the day, and I think it may have had something to do with returning hardware and things like that, and like people were less likely to return something if they couldn't rebox it or something. I seem to recall that being like an explanation of why these blister pack, I think that's what they're called, existed. But you know, they're shit. I'm glad I cut towards my hand, so always be, you know, very aware of what you're doing. Don't stab your hands for a Game Boy Advance video, ideally. Yeah, this thing is in rough shape. Alright. We're on our way. Maybe like something like this will be better. I think we're giving up on this plastic. I didn't really want to save the plastic anyway, so I think we're just gonna go for like a hot cut here. Like a hot cut that's not gonna try to salvage anything other than the cardboard. I say as I like stab the cardboard with the scissors. Okay, how about something like that? This maybe isn't ideal for removing the cardboard right now, but okay, there we go. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So we'll go ahead and feed this wire out through here. We'll pull this thing out. See that? Look, so beautiful. Yes. No. You need it to be plugged in to work. Thank you, Nintendo. Anyways, now that can rot on my shelf somewhere. This plastic sure has like a dirty feel to it though. Alright, so we got two components here. We got this piece here. We got this piece here. It goes on the actual back of the GBA SP. And we have this piece here, which looks very similar to like a Game Boy Advance SP adapter. But the connector is very different. So I don't know if this is like a more standard connector with any other Nintendo things at all. This kind of reminds me of like a mini HDMI cable or something like that, but the thing that I like plug my camera into, honestly. But yeah, so essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this thing and it's gonna replace the back of the Game Boy Advance. And what's like interesting to note about this thing is it feels super, super light because there's no battery in it. So whatever components are in here, which are probably just some wiring to connect like the electricity, is very minor. So let's go ahead and untwist this here real quick. I'm noticing getting a lot of shadows over here. The new stand I have does not have a light connected to it, so but it will make it more steady. Still working out the kinks behind the lighting and things like that on this kind of stuff, but you know, okay. So we got that untied, and essentially it just plugs in right there. Clicks in nice and tight, and then when you're done, boop, take it out. Alright, we're gonna need a Game Boy Advance. Now, I'm gonna warn you ahead of time. I did not take particularly good care of a lot of my things growing up, and I had particularly questionable hand cleanliness growing up as well. I also lived in a pretty questionable house in general, so you're gonna see some discoloration and some general, just like this thing could be in better condition, probably a lot better condition, but you know, it's just well loved by a special boy who did not wash his hands nearly enough. So there we go. We got our GBA out. There's a piece of electrical tape there because our clip here is broken, so it does not keep this in. As you can see, it's a little yellowed on the front. I don't know if you can tell on camera. It's a pretty yellowed looking white GBA, but you know, I always wanted the see-through one, but unfortunately they did not have them when I picked up my launch GBA. So anyways, I didn't really think too much through like how this electrical tape might affect the plastic under here. So, but yeah, so the clip here is cracked. To my understanding, this is like a fairly common thing with GBA SPs, where the clip just does not hold anymore because it's damaged. So yeah, but we will not need to worry about that, hopefully, with this guy. Well, as long as we leave it in and don't take it out. So once we put this thing in, that. Okay, this. Now what's interesting is it doesn't really feel like it sets in like the way you would typically put a cover on. Let's look at the yes and no. Alright. Yeah, it's... Okay, yeah, I think it's saying you need to put it straight down, which is not what I was doing, so we were doing the no. So let's do the straight down here. I don't know, I actually don't know how you get this thing in. There we go. That feels... That was not right. I mean, this is like the only way you can do it with the clip going in, I think. Okay, I think, wait, there we go. So I think we do need to do it at an angle. Is that what it was telling me to do? I don't know what it was telling me to do. But putting it at an angle is what did it for me, so. It'd be kind of nice to get like a plastic shell that replaces this. Honestly, like I had thought about like re-shelling my original GBA, because like the thing is that like everything else with it is fine. It's just the shell. The screen's a little scratched, but yeah. But you know, for what's going on. But yeah, I just love the feel of this thing. It just feels good, but that screen, just can't see it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and just plug this boy in. Actually, I don't have a game over here. Let's go grab a game real quick, too. So the easiest game within reach for me is Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku. So that is what we're going to put in for a second. You're not going to even really be able to see it anyway, so okay, let's plug that in. And then we will plug in the power. Here we go. In, and then hopefully this turns on. It's on. It's a Game Boy. Doesn't look like it's reading the cart, at least. There we go. Alright. I think there we go. Yeah, okay. Cool. Got Legacy of Goku going on here. The hit developer Infogrames, Webfoot Technologies. Oh, we got like an animation going on here. Very cool. Check out that anime. It's actually a lot more animation than I expected. Anyways, so it works. However, I will not be using this to play GBA games. So, how you connect this to... Actually, I want to keep the power cable in. How you connect this to a GameCube is using the... Actually, I don't... It was kind of interesting. I'm looking at this. I'm almost certain to use the Game Boy player for this, but look at this box. That just looks like a link cable that plugged in there. But yeah, this cable looks different. So here's a first-party GameCube, Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable. You know, pretty standard-looking stuff. I don't know if they've made any other versions of this, or if it's just the gray and purple design. However, I did find in my pile of stuff that I have this as well. It looks like I think it's Interconnects, the company that made this. I have no idea how I got this thing. It's here. Yeah. That is something I have. I don't know if I ever use it for anything. Maybe I was like planning for a Hot Crystal Chronicles section or session or something. But anyways, so part of the problem with why you can't really use a GBA SP for this is that the connection on top here of the GBA SP is wrong side. Or how you actually charge the GBA SP. This box is... I did not fit this GBA into this box very well. We're gonna go at it from the other side. Again, very, very messy looking GBA SP here. A little scratched up. Actually, it doesn't look too bad on the top. The back is a little more iffy. Yeah, so the problem with this is that, you know, when you plug it up here, you can't plug the power cable in because you got this mess in your way, right? So while you can use a GBASP, you wouldn't be able to charge it, and my GBASP battery is long dead. I'm pretty sure I took it out of there because I was scared of it dying. I could replace it, but honestly, I don't use my GBASP really for anything, so if we test it real quick, yeah, at least I didn't try to power on, so we're just gonna plug this thing in right here, and there we go, the double wire. It's the future. The future of video games is now. We're gonna bring this up on a screen real quick and just mess with it, but you know, then we'll just wrap it up from there. All right, so here we are. I got a very quick stream setup going on here. Not perfect, just launched OBS here real quick. So one thing I immediately realized after I plugged this in is because I don't use the Game Boy Player software, I need to use a GameCube controller first to launch Swiss here. So that is one inconvenience I did not think about. However, I can still go ahead and do this. I don't know what, so here's the thing. I don't know when the handoff can happen, how late it can be when I actually plug this thing in. So we'll see. Maybe this is like only good if you're launching directly into the Game Boy Player. But since I'm launching through a separate piece of software, might be a problem. Let me see if I plug it in, if it'll handshake with Swiss here real quick. All right, nothing yet. Okay, let's go back to controller. So we're gonna go into, I believe I use GBI, I'm using the 2018 version. I think I use the speed run mode. What I use, okay. Does this have any information in there about those? No, okay. I'm just gonna check to see if there is anything in here about using a Game Boy Advance to control. I don't see anything. All right. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna load this up and see if we can swap the GBA itself in now. Oh, I think this is very loud. All right, lowered the audio down. All right. The GBA made a bling noise when I did that. The screen is blank, but I'm controlling the video game. Awesome. Cool. Well, yeah, I was worried that it was like not gonna handshake if I put launched it without starting with the controller plugged in. I switched games just in case. I don't know, despite how terribly, compressed that DBZ footage was, I didn't know how that might work out here. If it'd be like, YouTube would be like, copyright claim. So, put in some Gunstar superheroes. We streamed this a while ago. But yeah. I think R is pause for some reason. I don't know if that's normal. So because I launched this through Swiss, I don't know if I changed the controls at all. Pressing start pauses too. Interesting that R pauses. I wonder why it's doing that. Interesting. Anyways, let me get my Game Boy Player disc and we'll see if R pauses there as well. When we launch with the Game Boy Player disc, we won't actually be using the Swiss, so it should launch officially. All right, here we are. If you didn't know, these come in Japanese GameCube cases. Interestingly enough, despite it being American. I got my GameCube disc for probably about like $40 used, I think. So, and as much as it is kind of like a somewhat pricey collector's item now, there's just a lot of problems with the software it uses to run the Game Boy Advance games, so ideally you wouldn't be using it. Okay, so yeah, it does track my inputs immediately. let's see here. We're gonna launch this game up. A big thing is just like, I think the colors get washed out and everything blurs over a bit. It looks fine, I think, to most people, but I think once you start getting picky about image quality, it doesn't hold up nearly as well. All right, so we'll go back to the level we are just on, and then see, does R pause the game still? I'm guessing that if it does, it's just that I changed the control type in the settings for Swiss. Yeah, so R no longer pauses the game. Now, I don't know what R does in this game, but yeah, it shouldn't be pausing the game. So I'm guessing whatever control setup I'm using is using the R button pause in addition. So I probably just have to go through those control options and find what works best, and go from there. So anyways, well, this thing is working, and it's working as I want it to. I can use a Game Boy Advance to play my Game Boy Advance games. Cool. To some degree, I wonder if I'd still prefer the 64 controller overall. But I went through a lot of headache trying to get that thing working and never was able to get it to work. So this is kind of a cool alternative option here. And it's a little more authentic, I suppose, despite looking at a screen for this. So anyways, that's it for that. Thank you guys for subscribing to the Patreon. Appreciate it. Lets me buy something stupid like this. so all that hard-earned Patreon money going to good places, I assure you. But anyways, yeah. So we'll see. I would like to play. It's been a while since we played a Game Boy Advance game, so part of me wants to stream a Game Boy Advance game sometime soon. When that will be is another thing. I think the big thing I want to stream is the Full Metal Alchemist RPG that has a fan translation, but I need a Game Boy Advance flash cart to do that, so we'll see about that. But anyways, it's a neat little thing, neat little piece of hardware that I was not aware existed, so thanks to Scott the Woz, I suppose, for looking at a book and me being like, oh, interesting, oh yeah, that screen's pretty cool, I forgot. But yeah, I have a whole stream that I played through this game on, so I'll link that here at the end of the video if you're interested in that. Otherwise, hope you guys have a great week. Bye!